Sri Chaitanya Manobhistham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padana Sadhana Lalita Sri Visakhan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratu Se Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nastaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna, everybody. So today we'll begin chapter 5 of Shrimad Bhagwatam, Canto 1. So before I begin on chapter 5, I would briefly summarize chapter 4. So in the beginning of the chapter, first 13 verses, Savanakarusi asks 3 questions after glorifying Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami is speaker, Savanakarusi is the one who asked questions. So basically he asked 3 questions. So question 1 is about Shrimad Bhagwatam. He wants to know, or rather they all sages wants to know, in which yuga, at which place, for what reason, and by whose inspiration did Vyasadeva write Shrimad Bhagwatam. So the chapter 5 and 6 will be completely giving the answer for how Vyasadeva was inspired to write Shrimad Bhagwatam. Question number 2 he's asking is, after describing the qualities of Sukadeva Goswami, Savanaka asked about Sukadeva Goswami that how did the citizens of Hastinapur recognize Sukadeva Goswami, and how did the meeting and conversation of Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami takes place. And question 3 is asking about Parikshit Maharaj, about his birth, activities, and his renunciation. Why he has renounced so early, while he was happily ruling his kingdom with his family and a nice kingdom. So these are the three questions. Then after that, the topics discussed are Vyasadeva's birth history, his meditation, then descriptions of the qualities of Kali Yuga is there, divisions of Veda and writings of Puranas and Mahabharata by Vyasadeva is described also in detail. And there is an expansion of Vedic knowledge by selecting the teacher for each division, as you have heard yesterday, that for Rigveda, Paila Rusi was selected, for Samaveda, Jaimini Rusi was selected, Yajurveda, Vaisampayana Rusi, Atharva Veda, Sumanto Muni Angira, and Puranas, Romharsan Sutta was selected, who was the father of Sutta Goswami. Then at the end of the chapter, Vyasadeva, after writing so many literature, scriptures, Puranas, Mahabharata and everything, he was still dissatisfied. And then contemplation, he was contemplating on why, where I have gone wrong, what is happening, why I'm not happy. I have written so many things, for the people benefit. So the possible reason was also recognized by him, which was that he did not point out the devotional service to Krishna, which is dear to pure devotee as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And then while he was contemplating like that, his spiritual master, Narad Muni, appears on the scene. So Vyasadeva comes out of his cottage and welcomes Narad Muni and worships him. So that is the end of chapter 4. Now we'll begin chapter 5. The title of chapter 5 is Narada's instructions on Shrimad Bhagwatam for Vyasadeva. So in the beginning 7 verses, Narad's inquiry about Vyasa's dissatisfaction, as we knew from the last chapter, chapter 4, that he was dissatisfied even after writing so many Puranas and Mahabharata and everything, dividing the Ved into 4, appointing acharyas for each one of them to expand the Vedic knowledge and so forth. But he was not happy. So Srila Vyasadeva, after welcoming, after worshipping his spiritual master Narad Muni, he was seated comfortably and he had a slight smile on his face. Why? Why Narad have a smile on his face? So it is said that because he knew that why Vyasadeva was not satisfied. That is why he was smiling slightly. The reason for that is because he knew the reason why Vyasadeva was not happy, not satisfied. Okay, so he knew the defect probably, basically, therefore. So therefore, now Narad is inquiring, are you feeling satisfied now? Okay, you have written so many religious scriptures, divided the Vedas, written Puranas and histories like Mahabharata, showing people how to become materially happy and eventually to merge with Lord Krishna's light, which is like Brahman effulgence. So this was kind of also hint by Narad to his disciple Vyasadeva of where he had gone wrong. Then Narad continued speaking to Vyasadeva. Actually, he's praising Vyasadeva. He's saying, you researched and studied the Vedas fully, and your work was very thorough and wonderful. It explains the Vedas entirely. It was all very scholarly and thoroughly written. Narad Muni says to Vyasadeva that you are very scholar, so it is scholarly done, very thoroughly written, and you have revealed to everyone the light of impersonal Brahman. So why do you feel so dissatisfied despite of all this? So Narad kind of a question to Vyasadeva like that, even though he knew the reason, he wanted to hear from his disciple Srila Vyasadeva. Now this disciple is so submissive that he admitted his mistake, and he said, yes, my dear Gurudev, all you have said about me is completely correct. Despite all this work, I'm still feeling unhappy. So please tell me what is causing my unhappiness. You know everything. Why? Because you worship Lord Krishna. You are spiritually perfect. This means you can really understand people's heart. So I'm sure you must have understood my heart. So please tell me why I'm feeling deficient, even though I'm strictly following all the rules and regulations of the scriptures. So what do we learn from this instance, this incident, the conversation between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva here? So it is said that everyone in this material world is engrossed with the idea of identifying the body or the mind with this self. That is our positions. Everybody's like that. If somebody asks you, who are you? Okay, so you will say maybe your name. You will say that maybe I am a boy, I am a girl, I'm a man, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a lawyer. That is all bodily designations. There is no soul's identity has been described. So the real answer to that, if someone asks you, who are you? You are not this body or mind. You are soul. So this was the main thing that Narad Muni wants to bring it. So actually, all knowledge we get in the material world is related to body or with the mind, and that is the root cause of dissatisfaction, which is not always detected. Also, the knowledge that we get in schools and colleges, everything is related to body and soul. There is no college or school that teaches the science of soul, which we really are. We are not this body. We are not this mind. We are not intelligence. We are soul, spirit soul, and we are eternal. And our constitutional position is that we are servant of Krishna. And our constitutional duty or our work that we have to do is to do something to satisfy Krishna. So being a servant, we have to serve our master, who is Lord Krishna. So that is our position. So therefore, one has to approach a spiritual master. So the lesson from this learning is that one should, whenever he get confused, he need to approach a spiritual master. Just like here, of course, spiritual master came by his compassion, because he knew what's going on in Vyasadeva's mind. But Vyasadeva admitted that where he went wrong, and then he's asking help from Narad Muni here. So this relationship between spiritual master, or how a disciple should make an inquiry from the spiritual master, is also given in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, where it says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadakshante jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So pranipat, pariprasna, and seva is explained that means pariprasna means inquiry, submissive inquiry. Okay, and pranipat means surrender. So spiritual master, when spiritual master comes, disciple has to surrender to him, ask questions submissively, and do the service for him. So these are the main ingredients to please the spiritual masters. Once you please the spiritual master, then he will impart the knowledge to you. He is Tattvadarshi. He is the knower of the knowledge. The Lord is original spiritual master, And a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. So that is spiritual master. So one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. And such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. So this is what we have to remember, that we can see from this incident how Vyasadeva became so submissive to Narad Muni, and now inquiring from him and want to know, where he went wrong, so that way he can improve himself. So in the next set of verses, Narad reveals to Vyas the importance of describing Krishna's pastimes. So let me share the screen with you. Okay, let's see. All right. So, okay. So we will come to this point. I'm just bringing the slide here. Okay. So now here, Narad is replying to Vyasadeva. He says, "Oh Vyasadeva, you have not described the glories of Lord Krishna." The glories of Lord Krishna that we're going to see in this slide, okay? Any philosophy, even from the Vedas, that does not give pleasure to Lord Krishna is considered worthless. You have no use for it. You have thoroughly explained the four principles of righteousness: religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But you have not considered the glories of Krishna. That means his pastimes in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, which attract the conditioned souls. So here now, Narad is replying to Vyasadeva that you haven't glorified Krishna enough, even though you have written so many scriptures. And especially Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan, what's happening here? Okay, Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan, where you can see here Krishna and Balaram, they are going to the forest herding the cows. Only in this picture, they are returning from the field, entering into their village. See, Balaram is carrying the plow, Krishna is carrying the flute, and you see the cows and calf there, right? So that is their business in Vrindavan. They go for cow herding every day, And you will see in the next picture, when Krishna was a baby, then he brought some grain for this fruit vendor, So fruit vendor happily gave him the fruits in exchange to few grains that he can hold in his hand, But fruit vendor was so captivated by the beauty of baby Krishna here, So she wanted to give all the fruits in the basket that she has. But you can see that Krishna cannot even hold it, a baby Krishna, like that. So these are so nice pastimes in Vrindavan. Another one here is lifting Govardhan Hill. You see that? So there is a little story about lifting the Govardhan Hill, which I will describe briefly. So what happened, one time Krishna and Balram saw that the Brahmanas were preparing for the performance of some Vedic sacrifices. So the cowherd men were also preparing a similar sacrifice in order to satisfy Lord Indra. Lord Indra is the demigod, the king of heaven, who was the king of heaven. He was responsible for supplying water in the form of rain to all living entities on earth. So Krishna decided to inquire about all this arrangement. He approached his father. He asked, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice? What is the result of such a great sacrifice?" So Nanda Maharaj explained, "This is a sacrifice for King Indra. He is the king of heaven, and he sent his cloud to pour down sufficient rain. And due to these rains, we have successful agricultural activities. We can then grow crops to feed our families and animals. Therefore, this is our traditional ceremonial function to satisfy him." So Lord Krishna then spoke, "I don't think you need to worship any demigod for successful agricultural activity. The demigod will anyway be satisfied if we do our duty properly. Just as we are satisfied living in this forest of Vrindavan, our specific relationship with Govardhan Hill. Govardhan grows sweet grass and good vegetation for us and our cows. Our cows then give us sweet milk, which is then converted to butter, and I have butter. Let us have nothing to do with Indra or the sacrifice." So at first, Narad Maharaj and other cowherd men were confused, but later on they realized that Krishna was right. Hence, Krishna began advising everyone about the preparation of Govardhan worship. He told the elder gopis to prepare nice food. He told them to make all kinds of milk preparation, such as kheer, sundaes, penda. The cows were decorated beautifully. Brahmanas were given all kinds of grains in charity. They then worshipped Govardhan and circumambulated the hill. All the cooked food items were offered to Govardhan. Everyone sang and danced joyfully. In this way, the worship of Govardhan was completed. King Indra saw all this and was very angry. He thought, "How dare this little cowherd boy stop my worship? I shall show him my mighty strength. I will punish all the residents of Vrindavan." He ordered his darkest storm cloud to go and destroy Vrindavan with incessant rain. By King Indra's order, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vrindavan and began to pour. The rain was accompanied by great winds. There were floods everywhere. Even the houses of the villagers began to submerge under the water. Every living creature in Vrindavan turned to Krishna and prayed to him for shelter. They said, "Krishna, we believed you when you said we must not worship Indra. And now look at the result of this. Indra is angry and will destroy us and our animals with this heavy rain. Please protect us, Krishna. Please find out way." So Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then performed the most amazing feat. He lifted the Govardhan hill. on the little finger of his left hand, just like a child would pick up mushroom out of ground and hold it in his finger. He requested all the inhabitants to make shelter under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill. The inhabitants of Vrindavan and their animals remained there for 7 days. They were not affected by hunger, thirst, or any other discomfort. King Indra saw the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna and was shocked. He then realized that this Krishna must be some special personality. He ordered his clouds to come back. The sky became cleared of all cloud, and Krishna requested all the inhabitants to return to their respective home. King Indra appeared before him along with Surbi cow. He brought the Surbi cow from Golak Vrindavan to please Krishna. Indra fell at the lotus feet of Krishna. The Lord, who is so merciful, forgave Indra. Indra offered his obeisances again and left. Thus, Krishna is also known as Girivardhari, of the lifter of the Govardhan hill. Govardhan Maharaj ki jai. See, here you can see Krishna lifting the hill and everybody is protected under the hill, right? So, such a beautiful pastime we can see only in Shrimad Bhagwatam. So, that is why I have described this story. So, Narad Muni eventually telling Vyasadeva to write Shrimad Bhagwatam in which these stories are described, such a nice. So likewise, Lord Krishna also have some other pastime, like here, he's sharing food with his friend, which you can see in this slide, right? Then also there is another pastime which is in Hastinapur, where Lord Krishna is ready to go to Dwarka now, and King Kunti is requesting him to stay longer. Then here you can see the Krishna and Balram in the streets of Mathura. And then there is another pastime in Mathura that you can see that Kubala, the hunchback, Krishna made her very beautiful, touching her. And then there is a person, the flower seller, florist, so florist priest Krishna also like that. And this is where Rukmani, this is Dwarka's pastime. So it's like different pastimes I'm showing just an example that how the Srimad Bhagavatam would be if he would write that Srimad Bhagavatam. This is all description is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was not described before by Srila Vyasadeva. So here you can see another pastime in Dwarka where Brahma is coming to meet Krishna like that. So this is Dwarka pastime. And this is Sudama, his friend in childhood while he was studying at the Sandipuni ashram. He came to see Krishna and how Krishna was treating his old friend, like washing his feet. So these are all very nice pastimes of Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, which we're going to learn in Srimad Bhagavatam anyway. So as a sample, I just described one which is lifting Govardhan hill. So we'll move forward from this. So Narad Muni is saying that what Vyasadeva emphasizes these 4 righteous principles, which means Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, means religiosity, economic development, and sense gratifications means material activity, and the liberation. So these 4 items are by far inferior, to engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. So it is better to engage in the devotional service rather than these 4 principles of righteousness.
Oh no, this code doesn't work.
So in Bhagavad Gita also says that, people are satisfied when they discuss about Krishna. They read the stories about Krishna. There's so many nice stories of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So they get happy. Machita madgat prana, bodhayanta parasparam, kathayanta samam nityam, tusyanti charamanti cha. People are telling the katha story to each other and they are getting pleasure out of it. So Narad Muni then further describes about the pure devotees like to live in a spiritual place, and any words that do not glorify Lord Krishna are like a place where crows live. You know, so saintly person, devotees do not like to go there because it is not nice spiritual place. For them, on the other hand, only the words that describe glories of Lord Krishna, even if they are imperfectly composed, are very powerful. So they are so powerful that they can change impious people into saintly personality. So the pure, honest men like to hear, sing, and accept these words that glorify Lord Krishna. You know, so what we can learn from this incident, that the fruitive workers, the people who desire fruits from their activity, these are called fruitive worker. They are compared to the crows. Crows means, you know, they uh, normally gather at a dirty place. Whereas all perfect saintly persons are compared to swan. You know, so the crows take pleasure in place where garbage is thrown out, just as the fruitive worker take pleasure in wine, gambling, and bad activities like that. So then Narad says that even if Vedic scripture do not carry much value, if they don't describe the glory of Lord Krishna, as we seen in this slide, okay, what is the value of ordinary activity which people do every day? So now, if their activities are not pleasing to Lord Krishna, they are temporarily by nature, and they just being, they only bring pain. You know, if something is not pleasing to Krishna, their activity only can bring pain eventually. You know, so Narad glorifies Vyasdev to increase his enthusiasm. He says that that you have to your vision, you know, to sometimes spiritual master has to also appreciate the activities of a disciple. And that is what here Narad Muni is doing in further verses. He says that, he says to Vyasdev, your vision is completely perfect. You know, your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and, and truthful. So you can think of the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, you know. So he's saying here, Narad is telling to Vyas now, my dear Vyasdev, you are qualified to write scriptures for the people, but you have cheated them, you know. How you have cheated them? Even though it was not your intention, but the result came out that way. How did he cheat it? It is, Narad is explaining here. You have cheated the people by making them think that real religion is meant for meaning their own senses. You know, the real religion is pleasing their own senses instead of Krishna's senses. You know, so you made them think that way, and that was your, you know, in your scripture. Even though it was not intention, they understood it wrong way. You know, and they thought that the real pleasure is their enjoying their own senses. So people of Kali Yuga, they naturally like to enjoy. Therefore, they will take advantage of your instruction and will enjoy without any prohibitions. So whatever you describe without glories of Krishna will disturb their mind. Just like wind disturb the boat, the example is given that if the boat is not properly anchored, when the wind comes, you know, it will topple over. So similarly, you know, if you do not guide them properly, then they will misunderstand. You know. So what we can understand from this conversation of Narad and Vyas is that Vyasdev is the editor of Vedic literature. He described transcendental realization in different ways. For example, by fruitive activity, by speculative knowledge, means you guess knowledge, not the real Vedic knowledge. A mystic power by which you receive some perfection, mystic perfection, and devotional service. Uh, Besides that, in his various Puranas, he has recommended to worship so many demigods also in different forms and names. So the result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their mind in the service of the Lord. So in that way, they are always disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. And this is the particular defect in the Vedic literature compiled by the Vyasadeva that was pointed out by his spiritual master Narad Muni. Therefore, now Narad Muni is trying to emphasize about describing everything in relation with Supreme Lord, Krishna, and no one else. The Lord is manifested in different expansions. He is the root of the complete Vedic three. That is what he needs to describe, like he's like a stomach of the complete body. See, our body has a stomach, and if you feed to stomach, all senses will be automatically get nourished. So similarly, if you satisfy Krishna, all demigods and everybody will be satisfied. That is what Narad is trying to explain. Also, he gives the another example. Then when you water the tree, you water at the root. So you do not go and water the leaves and branches and twigs and everywhere. But if you water the root of the tree, then whole tree will be nourished. So by giving this example, Narad is telling Vyasadeva to only please Krishna by writing about Krishna and about his pastimes, that what we have seen in the slide. So Narad is finally advising Vyasadeva to write about Krishna so it can act like medicine for the materialistic people. Everything, this will clear away their material desire, and then they will deserve to know Lord Krishna fully and be truly happy. So Narad emphasized that because Vyasadeva is expert, okay, and also unattached to material happiness. He doesn't have any material desire. He is expert. So that's why Narad is telling that you are qualified to write Shrimad Bhagwatam. So this is the qualification that Narad is pointing out to Vyasadeva. What is the qualification? He is expert and he does not have material desire. So about the Krishna's pastimes, he is telling to write about it. Now, Narad further explains about the advantages of taking up devotional service to Lord. He even further explains what will be the benefit if you take devotional service to Lord Krishna. So to please Lord Krishna, there are actually many duties we can see that we have to perform in this material world. We have a family duty, society duty, country duty, humanity, demigod worship, so many things, right? But it is mentioned in the scripture that one can give up all such duties and surrender unto service of Lord. He says in the Bhagavad Gita also, last chapter, where he says, Sarva dharman paritajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami mahasuchaha. He says that you can abandon all the activities and just surrender unto me. And if you surrender unto me, I will relieve you from all your sinful activities, and then, all your obligations will be fulfilled. So if one does so and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service unto the Lord, it is well and good. But then question may come sometimes that it so happened that sometimes one surrender to himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment. And in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he may fall down. So now he's giving the alternative that if somebody fall down, what happened? So from the part of service, when somebody fall down, because of the undesirable association. There are so many examples also given in the Shastra like Bharat Maharaj and Chitraketu like that. Bharat Maharaj incident I will describe in brief, that he was a king, he left everything and went to forest to worship Lord Krishna. He perfected himself. But one time while he was sitting on the bank of a river, he saw a sea deer who was pregnant, and the lion was roaring loudly and running behind her. So she tried to cross over the river. Now during that time, her baby fell down into the river. So that Bharat, who was doing some meditation on the bank of the river, he saw it accidentally, and then to save that dear baby, he went there, saved the baby, and then instead of his sadhana, he forgot about his duty about Krishna, and then he fall down like that way. But what happened at the end, when he was dying at the end of his life, he still remembered the deer, so he got a body of a deer. But he was a perfected saint, perfected person. So in the body of a deer, even he remembered that who he was. So and then somehow or other he passed that life, and the next life he again got a life in a Brahman house where he acted like a judge. But it's a long story. In Bhagwatam we will learn when that chapter will come. But I'm just giving you a brief synopsis of it, that even though you fall down, you will still remember Lord Krishna. So, but in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down. Why? Because even though one fall down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of Lord. Once engaged in this devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances, because it is given in Bhagavad Gita also, where it says, Neha Bikamina Aswasti. If somebody is fall down, it is said there that even a small quantity of devotional service can help save one from most dangerous position. And the example given in Bhagavatam is also a Jamil. We will learn this when we come to 6th Canto. So material activities and their results actually end with the body. When we die, whatever we achieve materially will end. If we have a doctor or lawyer or scientist, it is all gone at the end of our life. But whatever we do spiritually, it will come with us. Suppose if you start your spiritual life and you make only 50% progress, then you will get a birth at a proper place where you advance your spiritual life again and start with 51%, So like that, you will get an opportunity to advance further. So everyone in this material world, actually, everyone is trying to get happiness in this material world, but it can be obtained automatically. How it can be get automatically? The example is given here. Just as in course of time we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them, right? We do not desire misery in our life, right? We do not say that, okay, I haven't got a fever for so long, let the fever come. We do not ask for misery, but it comes, right? Similarly, the happiness also will come, right? Just like misery comes, the happiness will also come. So no one can get more or less by personal endeavor. One should only endeavor, therefore, to go back to Godhead, to Krishna, like that. So in that way, Narad Muni is explaining, then he is also explaining about the pure devotional service, Narad Muni further glorification, he glorifying the devotional service to Lord Krishna, where he says that pure devotional service is so spiritually relishable that a devotee becomes automatically uninterested in material enjoyment. Example were given like Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Narad Muni, like that. That is the sign of perfection in progressive devotional service. So even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes fall down, somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others. Uh, because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that bliss again and again. A devotee is never to be considered the same as a fallen karmi. A karmi means one who desires the fruits of his action, suffers the result of his own fruitive reaction. Whereas devotee is reformed by chastisement of directed by the Lord himself. For example, Pandavas, we will discuss tomorrow about more. The suffering of an orphan and the suffering of beloved child of a king, they are not on the same level, you know. So in concluding verse, Narad Muni now saying to Vyasdev that Narad reminds Vyasdev that he is literary incarnation of Lord, because we learned that Vyasdev is incarnation of Krishna, you know, and his mission especially for the purpose of helping people. Therefore, advising him to describe the transcendental pastime of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, more clearly, you know, which is the Shrimad Bhagwatam. So sage Vyasdev then understood why he was feeling despondent or dissatisfied. And after writing so many scriptures, he realized that it was because he had not told people the glories of Lord Krishna. He was very thankful to his spiritual master. And Narad Muni then again says that, okay, I'll give you my personal life example, you know. So Vyasdev was equally eager to hear the Narad Muni's past history, which we will describe or we will learn tomorrow. Okay, so we'll stop here today, and tomorrow we will see that how Narad Muni describes his last life event to show the influence of the surcharged environment that he was in. You know, he describes how such an atmosphere affected his own life. So the whole story of Narad Muni, of his past life, we're gonna listen tomorrow. So I will stop here and take any questions from you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.